Hello and welcome back to Alex Makes Stuff. My name is Alex, and today we have another custom furniture project for you. So one of my best friends in the whole world asked me to make a coffee table for him, and of course my answer was yes. I would love to make you a coffee table. He had some cool ideas. These are my, once again, terrible sketches, although these ones are a little bit more in perspective. I've got a whole bunch of walnut here. I've got some thick walnut legs that I'm gonna cut into some X-frames. I got some metal that I'm gonna do some threading to. I got a whole bunch of new tools, whole bunch of new stuff that I'm gonna try to do to this. Stuff I've done before, stuff I didn't have tools for, so it's gonna be really exciting. I got a lot to do in this project, so let's get right to it. I already actually squared these ends and jointed all these surfaces here for these legs because they came a little bit rough, but I got one more end to cut for you guys. I think it's this one, maybe not that one. Yeah, it's this one. So I've got this one. Is still not done. From the factory, these came with like wax on the ends. I'm not sure if that was for drying or for preservation purposes, but I got one more end on this to square. I've done all the other ones here. You can see the X's I marked on them. Really nice. New blade on the table saw. New blade on the compound miter so we can get these nice and sliced. I got to get these down to 24 inches exactly. It's pretty darn close, but I think, yeah, it's pretty much almost exactly at 24. So I'll do a little saw scraping and just kind of get the wax off that end and square this end up. But start with the legs, then I gotta do some table cutting, but let's get right to it. So like I said, I don't have to cut off a whole lot. I mean, I have to cut off actually a very, very small amount on this surface. The best way to do this when you only have to take off a tiny bit of material is you actually lower the blade on your miter saw, push the wood up against it. Now, if you actually push the wood into the saw a little bit and then raise the saw up, hear that little sound there? Bing, that little sound. So basically, it pushes the blade slightly over when you raise it up and lower it back down. It's actually sitting right there on the saw. I don't know if you can see, but just a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit. And that should scrape off just the very end. So if you have to do little cuts just to kind of get things to the right length, that's the way I would recommend doing this. Learn nothing. Done. Okay, great. All of our legs are squared up. I'm not sure what I'll do. I might end up like cutting down the corners a little bit, but I want to get them notches cut first so I can get the X-frames put together, and then I got to cut the angles on them. But that's pretty much it for just the squaring. I got these. I should have 3. I'm waiting for one more in the mail. I made a mistake in the order, but I should have 3 of these. These guys are going to be dowel jointed together so that I can have this little shelf. You can see here, and a little here. And I got this big walnut slab that you can kind of see. I actually have a lot of epoxying I want to do to this. Not like the full thing, but I've got, like, you can see here. It's got, you know, a little bit of emptiness, cavernous areas here, and there's a big chunk missing here. So I think actually I'll do some interesting stuff here. I'll explain that later because I've got a couple of ideas. But I do need the epoxy. The epoxy's coming in the mail a couple days as well, so I can do that later. But I do need to clean out all this stuff. I need to vacuum out all these holes, these little mite holes and stuff, so it's nice and clean for epoxy. So I'll do that. I got my metal. I got to cut these down to a certain length so I have some extra pieces to use. Anyway, I got a bunch of stuff to do. I'm just going to try to get as much done and take you guys with me. All right, so before we take our legs to the table saw and cut those notches, I do actually want to cut my metal down first because if you can see in my drawings, I got one little threaded bar here that's going to support the center of the 2 legs that are going to be fit together with a cross like that. And the other support bars will go from one leg all the way to the other. One's like a footrest, one's to hold up the shelf here. So I need 4 bars cut to 30 inches, and I need 2 bars cut to 6 inches. The other 2 excess pieces will be used for something else. I'll explain a little bit, but I've already got these marked out, so I'm just gonna go right to it and chop them up with my angle grinder here. All right, so I have begun, I just did these, put these on so that I can get my thread adapter on there, but I was just doing a test on this guy, one of the first pieces. This is pretty much what I'm going for. I have threaded the ends of this, used to be one of these. That'll be enough washer bolt on the sides of these guys. This is the ones I'm making right here. So it's only gonna be about 5 inches long, you know, 1.5 inches either side of the 3 inches of the wood, but the inside should be fine. So anyway, so that's what I'm doing. So I had a thought. I don't really want to thread the 5 inches of both ends of all 4 of these support bars for these legs, but I do want it to still look like they're threaded. So what I think I'll do actually is I'm going to take 4 of these nuts and I'm going to Dremel out the threads on the insides of them so that I can slip them over the bar, and I'll weld them in place where I want them to be to have the correct spacing in between the legs to save myself like hours probably of grueling, hand hurting threading on these bars. I think I will just grind out these, weld them on, call it a day. So let's do that. That'll work. 4 bolts here, or 4 nuts, excuse me. Have all had the threads stripped off of them. Whoops. So they will essentially, I'll slide them on, I'll weld them, and then I'll put the wood of the legs on, and then from the other side, another washer, and I'll actually thread these ones on so they're nice and tight. Okay, so while we're waiting for a few things to come in the mail, we are gonna try and cut the notches out of the sides of these guys. I did some practice cuts. I was trying to just figure out the table saw. I got a new blade on there. So I'll run through this last one, and then I'm gonna just do some consecutive slices till I get to the other end, and then I'll make sure that they all fit and do some more finicky sawing once we get towards the ends of where they need to be in thickness wise to fit around the other boards. So let's get to that. Just need a little bit more. So I went back to the table saw. I recut this just a little bit higher, and then I sanded it and filed it and everything. So you can see if I fit these guys together. Ooh. Ooh. Very nice. Sorry. Very, very nice. Okay, we are back with our metal. I picked up a new unbroken tap and die set. This one's made by Husky. First off, let me just say, I like this ratchet design a lot. I wasn't sure about it at first. Oh my god, it's so smooth, it's so comfortable.
it looks like it's just made. I mean, until I break it, I'm, you know, I could be speaking right out of my butt here, but I'm liking it. Not bad. Yeah, I like this a lot. So we've got all of our bars threaded. I've got those nuts on there, the fake nuts. I do want to do the epoxy over here, but so here's the idea that I was having, right? I don't want to just fill this section with epoxy and leave it. It's going to be like clear, so you're just going to be able to see throughout the table. I'm not doing like another section of this. I know there's like big tabletops you can see examples of like lots of epoxy and like half the table's epoxy, or it's like a river, or it's like blue or anything like that. I'm just gonna do clear epoxy. I wasn't gonna be too ambitious with this, but I did have the idea if it was just gonna be a big chunk of epoxy just kind of like sitting on the end here, it might as well have something in it, but it also might as well have something in it that's like structural. So what I had thought, I threaded the other ones, these guys, the other two little end pieces to my bars. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drill 2 holes. I'm going to tap them. I'm going to screw these guys in there. I'll cut them off at a certain length, right? And then one of these old railroad spikes, I have some of these laying around. I'm going to polish this up. I already tried a little bit on the wire brush wheel, but I'm going to buff this out. I'll polish up one side, and somehow I'll either stamp or I'll engrave my name into it, my brand kind of thing, and then I'll weld it to there, so it'll be kind of like, not only will it look kind of cool to have a railroad spike just kind of like sitting in this table, but it'll also be structural, so it'll be like a giant staple that's kind of like cast into the epoxy that will hold it in place. So that's what I'm gonna do now. See if these guys fit. Oh yeah. There you go. So that's what it should look like. Okay. I got X marked out. I got a little circle punched in there. I don't like freehand drilling, but I don't have a drill press. I've said this before. I'm just gonna go for it, and I'm gonna try to get it as straight as possible. Hope that it goes well. But that is what that should look like. Very nice. So I'll go back over here, I'll cut these, I'll thread them, I'll put the other guys on here, and I'll secure these, and I'll leave these legs together like that so that I can drill these other holes, figure out where I need my legs to be. Okay, so I got my name written on here. I polished off the one side. That's gonna be facing up so you can see it. I was gonna do the outside, but It'd be nicer if you can just see it from when you look down on the table, so you don't have to like scrunch down. Looks like a middle schooler wrote it, but hold on a sec. Let me polish this off. There we go. Went over it a couple more times and I took it back to the wire wheel. And it looks pretty good. It's tough drawing with that thing, but it's better than it came out on the ring before. Oh my god, that was not good. Anyway, so that's that. There's two. Done. All right, so these guys are 19 inches tall. You can see 19. Most coffee tables are between like 16 and 20 inches tall, really. But my slab is like 2¼ inches thick. So I'm gonna try to cut this down to like 16½. So it's like, you know, like a little bit over 19. So in order to do that, I need to cut off a couple of inches up here, a couple inches down the bottom, and then cut these guys as well, so that, like, especially down here, if you were going to walk past this, you wouldn't want it to be flat on the bottom and have this little piece jutting out. You'd hit your toe on it, it would hurt and be really unfortunate. So just kind of rounding off these edges with some nice angles. But let's get to that so we can get these legs put together. So there they are. Angles are cut. Right, we get a whole bunch of holes to drill, so I'm just gonna go do it! Drill little holes, drill bigger holes.
Just do it!
Wow. It's like exactly 23 inches. Let me draw lines where I need these guys to be welded onto so I know 100% this is where it's gotta be. So I found a better way to do it. I got this jig for drilling the dowel holes into the shelf when I want to glue it. But this keeps the holes pretty straight and level for a couple of inches above the surface. So I've been using this. I did the other holes on the first two sets of legs as a test. Worked out pretty well. They came out pretty straight. So that's what I'm going to do on these guys as well. They look straight. Now, as long as they were all drilled in the same spot, we won't have an issue. Well, that can't be good. What do you say we get that one threaded bolt welded onto this guy? That wasn't awful. Oh. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, wow, look, I got so close. My measurements were real good on that placement. Not bad. All right, I'll just weld this into place, and that's pretty much that. Clean it up. Let's see, when I get the epoxy in there, I'll have just that much clearance, because if I'm going along the straight edge of this cut, which I will, should have plenty of room, but you should be able to see it because you got, you know, like an inch of a clear epoxy on top. You can see, but bam. Okay, not bad. That one was spicy. Okay, so another day. We got a lot of things to do on this tabletop. I'm gonna try to do a lot of work on the tabletop today. I need to epoxy these areas. I got some foam board. Just gonna use this and make a little like box around this guy. I got some packing tape here. Tape the foam with so that it doesn't stick to the epoxy. And then I'll build some borders around this guy. What I'm gonna do first though, because I want the color of the wood to match underneath the epoxy, what I'm gonna do the rest of it, I'm just gonna oil up all the spots that are gonna be touched by epoxy today. Then I'll epoxy it and then I'll oil up the whole thing, and should be pretty nice. So we got our box built. It's hot glued on the outsides, all the seams. It's gonna cover up that. It's gonna cover up all this. And fill this all with epoxy. And I got it clamped obviously on the end there, but this should do just fine. Be able to fill this all with epoxy and look nice. So here we go.